of our stellar volunteers, and Donna is going to be our moderator tonight. She's, I won't say she's taking over a Kemi's job. She's just doing a Kemi's job, and it's Donna's job tonight. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Hello, everyone, and welcome. It's so great to see you all, and I'm so happy to see you coming here and being part of Sangha and taking care of yourself today by joining us and being together and participating in our practice. I put a little prompt in the chat. Just say where you are, if you feel like it. Say where you're from, how you're doing today, and maybe something about your intention of coming to class. I also wanted to highlight that Trudy has a retreat coming up at Spirit Rock. I think that's in a couple of weeks. And so I put that information also in the chat box. And I noticed that there are some newcomers. So I just wanted to remind people who are new to InsightLA that the first Monday of every month is a little orientation at 12 noon on Mondays, the first Monday at 12 noon, where you can get a chance to have a taste of practice, get some questions answered, find out about some programs that might be appropriate for your needs or interests. So you might check that out on the calendar. So welcome today. Nice to see you, Donna.
Thank you, Donna. Yes, welcome everybody. Very happy to see all of you, and thank you for coming to practice together. Tonight is the last night of our Still Home Together. I thought it would be our last time of Still Home Together, and next week I'm teaching the retreat, allegedly at Spirit Rock, but I'll be right here teaching it. But it's sponsored by Spirit Rock Retreat. So I won't be here next Thursday. So we're going to take a break next Thursday. And I had the fantasy that by the end of May, beginning of June, maybe we wouldn't be at home anymore. But I just spoke with Mark Koberg, our InsightLA director, and he told me that the shelter at home has been extended. And I don't know if everybody knew that. I got the notice about everybody wear face masks now when you go out, but I didn't know that the shelter at home had been extended. And I can feel teenagers across the metropolitan area just freaking out at having to, another 6 weeks home with their parents and away from each other, but that's not to mention us. So I know that Natalie was asking, would we be doing this after the retreat? And I think yes. I think we called the first round, the 4 classes, Home Together. This one is called Still Home Together. I don't know what we'll call the next one. And Still Home Together. But I think we will continue, and we'll send you, we will send you information about that because we haven't really planned it yet. So, and welcome to anybody who is new. I see that Jillian from San Diego, a nursing assistant, is new. No wonder you're drained, and welcome. You're doing such a good thing for yourself by joining us, Jillian. And tonight I actually wanted, because we won't be meeting next week, I wanted to do some loving kindness practice together. I feel like we can always use it. And so I will do some guided meditation, a guided loving kindness meditation. And I like to begin it by doing a different practice from the one you may have learned. Oh, I forgot to turn the light here. This should make it better. And then, so we'll do the loving kindness. Is that better? Yes, we'll do the loving kindness meditation together. And then I'll say a few words about this practice, and maybe I'll just say a few words beginning and then afterwards too, because This is a practice where we really use our thoughts and the imagination. We harness the power of our creativity and imagination. Um, and my first teacher used to he was a Korean Zen master named Sansanim, and he used to, Reverend Sung San, and he used to call these kinds of practices Dharma play. And I love that because they are playful, they can be really playful, and they ask us to be in a very relaxed state of mind and body. So when you do these meditations, you don't sit rigidly in an uncomfortable way, sitting through discomfort. You relax, you be comfortable, you move if you get uncomfortable, because this feeling of loving kindness is warm-hearted and very relaxed. And I love it too because our access to it isn't limited in any way by our family, by our culture, by any religious background, by our social class or money or race or gender or abilities, any of the identities that we may carry in our life. We are all able to access this metta because it is actually our true nature, the nature of our hearts. And when I say that, it's sometimes hard to believe looking around the world. But when you do it, and you do it with some consistency over some time, you discover, yes, this is true. So the main difference between loving kindness and mindfulness meditation is that loving kindness is a concentration practice, while mindfulness is considered an insight practice. And this means that if you're doing mindfulness practice, whatever arises, whatever appears in your consciousness, that becomes, there's no such thing as a distraction. Whatever is appearing in the moment, whatever is arising in awareness, in the ever-changing field of our awareness, this then becomes the subject of our meditation. With loving kindness meditation, when we focus on a phrase or we focus on an image or a feeling, then if something distracting arises, we don't just say, oh, okay, this is the landscape of my life, this is what's here right now. No, we bring the mind back. We're really letting go of, whatever else it might be coming up. Maybe your nose itches, maybe your back hurts, maybe, I don't know, the phone rings and something happens. There's something that's always happening in our lives. But with the loving kindness meditation, we drop that distraction as quickly as we can, and we come back to the phrase or the image or the feeling that we're focusing on. And so that's what makes it a concentration practice, because when other experiences arise, we don't focus on them, we let them go. So find a comfortable sitting posture where you can be very relaxed, please. And Sharon actually calls loving kindness practice a sneaky wisdom practice, because even though it's allegedly not an insight practice and is a concentration practice, when we are letting our distractions go, we actually get to see where our minds get stuck and where the repetitious sort of mechanical way the mind returns to certain things. And as we begin to see that, we develop, we develop some wisdom. So I want to invite you to first do a visualization. I call it the jelly roll because it's sweet. And in this visualization, you use your imagination to call to mind a few people or a few beings. You can include your pets or other beings who've all passed away already, or you include the people who, the criterion that I want you to use is people who are happy when something good happens to you, that they are pleased when you have some good fortune, or when you're happy in your life. And then I want you to invite them, please, to come and be in a circle around you. And it might be a very small, intimate circle, might be a little bit of a bigger circle, but this has nothing to do with how many people love you. It's really about receiving love and trusting our capacity to receive love, to be lovable, to open to our vulnerability. So one by one, let them come and either sit in a circle around you or stand around you. I always put my parents in my circle, even though they passed away a long time ago. I had loving ones, so that makes it easier. They weren't perfect, but they did love me. And I'm telling you this because if you start trying to choose people who, you just have no ambivalent relationship with them, it's all good. You probably won't have anybody in your circle. So it doesn't have to be a perfect relationship. The guideline is when something good happens for you, they're pleased. And as they sit or stand near you, begin to look into the eyes of each one. And this is the vulnerable part. Letting yourself receive their affection for you, their fondness, and maybe their love. You can go around your circle very tenderly, just feeling what it's like to receive each person's caring and positive regard for you. Just taking your time to let it in. And if your mind wanders away, simply come back to your circle, and maybe you're ready to acknowledge and appreciate each being You can offer a little bow of appreciation or a hug, whatever feels appropriate. And then one by one, just let each of these beings who appreciate and care for you, just let them melt into your heart one by one. Perhaps as you hug them, just holding them close. Or perhaps just imagining that they're dissolving and melting into your heart. And you can take your time. You can just continue with this if it feels good to you. And if you're ready, you can take this warmth, this warm-hearted feeling, and offer some loving kindness to yourself, to all the beings who inhabit your heart, the restless little kids, the peaceful, the loving, the exhausted, the agitated, the contented, all the different parts of who you are and who you love, just letting all of it peacefully coexist in your one heart. We first practice loving kindness toward ourselves with the understanding that it's pretty hard to love other people if we hate ourselves or don't love ourselves. So I'm going to offer some phrases, and all you need to do is repeat them silently to yourself and listen to what you're saying. And see if you can mean it when you say it. May I be safe and protected from inner and outer harm. May I live with the ease of an open heart. May I be truly happy and deeply peaceful. May I be healthy and strong. And if that's not possible, may I accept my limitations with grace. May I appreciate my life just as it is. And may I love myself completely, just the way I am. And remember, this is an aspiration. We aspire to love ourselves completely. And when you say these phrases, just let yourself feel the seeds of intention that you're planting when you say them. We're connecting with the intention to wish ourselves and others happiness and safety and peace. And if you're having trouble connecting to loving yourself, imagine yourself again harnessing the creativity of the imagination. Imagine yourself as a little child in your mind's eye. May I be safe and protected from inner and outer harm. May I live with the ease of an open heart. May I be truly happy and deeply peaceful. May I be well. May my heart be steady through the ups and downs of this life. May I appreciate my life completely, just as it is. And may I love myself completely, just the way I am. And just really feel the heartfelt meaning. And don't worry if you don't feel yourself drenched in love. It can feel dry and mechanical, but it doesn't matter. Because you're really feeling and planting seeds of intention to grow the capacity to love. So just let your mind rest with the phrases. The feelings will come and go. And if you're using the image of yourself as a small child, you can speak to that child. You can tell her or him or them what they need to hear, what they always needed to hear, but maybe nobody knew how to tell them. And you can continue. You can bring in other friends, neighbors, acquaintances, strangers, animals, people you have difficulty with. This is an inclusive practice. You can use the same phrases. You can create your own phrases. Whatever resonates for you. And sometimes when we're doing loving kindness meditation, feelings that are not at all of love arise. It could be anger, aversion, sadness. And if this is happening, it's not a sign that you're failing to cultivate love. It's a sign that your heart is softening and that your heart is opening. And revealing what is here that needs some loving attention. And you can always send some loving kindness to those feelings if they're happening. They are part of the practice, not a mistake. And now we can open and extend these wishes for happiness and safety and wellness to all beings everywhere. May we and all beings be safe and protected. May we and all beings be truly happy and deeply peaceful. May all beings, and that includes us, be healthy and strong. And may all those who are ill with COVID fully recover. May all beings appreciate their life just as it is. And may all beings treasure their aliveness, loving life in the form of themselves, of each one of us, completely. So the metta practice, it is designed to help us free our hearts from states of aversion, holding grudges, resentments, irritation that for those of us who are not living alone, we can get really irritated with each other. For those of you who are living alone, you can get really irritated with yourself and start to judge yourself. And the metta is really, it's a good balance. It's a good antidote for that and also for fear. It can really help bring peace to a frightened heart. And usually, as many of you know who have practiced this for years, usually the practice is done in a very specific way, gradually including more categories of beings. We begin with ourselves or a benefactor, somebody who's helped us in this life. Then we extend to a dear friend, someone that it's easy to love. It's easy to love ourselves, it's supposedly, although actually that's not true. But in the texts, it's assumed that we naturally would cherish ourselves above others. And it's easy to love people who've been good to us in this life, and it's easy to love our dear friends. But then where it gets really interesting is when it extends to people who are just kind of neutral or strangers. And then to extend to people who might actually aggravate us. And eventually to be able to hold whoever it is in our hearts. And when you think about, oh gosh, am I supposed to love the difficult person? No, you don't have to love them. The idea, though, is to not have to hate them, to be free from, the painful state of disliking and ruminating about it and going over things like that. And sometimes I like to also, when I'm doing the difficult person, sometimes I like to include the difficult parts of myself. If I'm having trouble accepting some part of myself, that becomes the difficult being who needs some love. And then all beings everywhere. And it's usually this classic and more systematic approach we usually do in retreat, where we have um, a little more time. And then if you ever do intensive metta practice in a long retreat, there are all kinds of more categories. And then you have something like 12 categories. And then you send metta to all 12 categories in the north and the east and the west and the south. And then you send to all 12 categories in the north, the northeast, the east, the southeast, the south, the southwest, the west. The northwest and the north. I mean, it can get very, very intricate as you develop. It's to develop concentration and access to states of absorption. But that's not what we're doing. We're just trying to live in a more loving way, loving ourselves and being able to let go of some of our, defenses and defensive strategies that we use to protect our hearts from getting hurt. And especially not to give up on love when we have been hurt. That's also this is an important support for that. And it does work. I was in a long metta retreat where I was having to offer loving kindness to somebody who had really hurt me badly. And I just couldn't concentrate. I was in such a good state until I got to that person. And it was so hard to do it. It was just like Sisyphus, rolling that rock up the mountain and then having it just roll back down. It was really hard. But because I was in a long retreat and there really wasn't anything else to do, I just kept doing it. And it felt like the image that I've often used, and some of you might have heard me say this, is I don't know if you ever chewed gum in school when you were a kid, but I did. And then I would stick it under my desk. And then at the end of the school day, I would retrieve it and put it back in my mouth. And it would be very hard and cold. But after a while of chewing, it would get soft and elastic again. It didn't have, of course, the sugar in it as it did in the beginning, but it was satisfying and soft to chew. And that was the image I had for metta with the difficult person. That at first it was like really, tough to chew and cold. But then as I chewed away with the practice, it definitely warmed up and softened. And this is what can happen. This is what does happen inevitably if we stay with it. I'm not suggesting you choose the difficult person who hurt you the most in this life, however, to begin with. Choose somebody who just maybe bothers you. But this practice it strengthens us, actually. It allows us to keep our hearts steady and to be more peaceful. And right now, we need this. We all need this. And it strengthens us by developing this quality of steadiness, of steadfastness. That's what happens. And also we can bring it to whatever's going on. We can offer metta to our edgy states or bad memories or catastrophizing fears about the future, etc. So this loving kindness practice is really our friend. It helps us recognize the whole gamut of what we go through as human beings, with some tenderness, some self-forgiveness. It's really important, and especially now, during this pandemic, when we suddenly all lost our lives that hopefully we loved, but even if we didn't love them, we were really used to them. And many are losing loved ones too. And so it's the metta is really, really important right now. And I could talk about this really quite extensively because it's a practice that I love, and I want to always offer a shout out to Sharon Salzberg, who was she wrote the first book called Loving Kindness about these practices to cultivate and strengthen beautiful qualities of the heart, like loving kindness and compassion and joy and equanimity and gratitude and so forth. And that book, I feel, is still the best book on these practices. It's a really good book. And Sharon was also the first one to put this practice front and center instead of it being sort of an add-on that you do at the end of a retreat, like dedicating the goodness of our practice to all beings. She really made whole retreats to practice this. And I can't help but appreciating the fact that as a woman, she wasn't afraid to put love and a practice that is really about dissolving the sense of separation, alienation, disconnection, dissolving the boundaries that we hold between us. And I'm not talking about healthy boundaries that we all need. I mean that sense of being somehow exiled from the rest of humanity, or exiled. I'm not deserving of love, or I somehow maybe don't deserve to have that in my life, or I don't have what it takes, or it's really important to sort of flush out these beliefs and see them if we're holding them, and then to also just keep watering that seed of intention to grow our capacity for love, and it will absolutely happen. So this is some of what I want to share with you tonight. And you know that I like to teach in interaction with you. So I want to invite you to either use the raise hand function at the bottom of the chat thread. There's a little, you can click on it, a little raise hand icon comes up, or you can just wave your hand and Donna will find you and unmute you, and then we can have some dialogue, some conversation together.
Okay, I see Jeff has his hand raised.
Okay.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Hi, thank you. Hi, Trudy.
Hi, Jeff.
My question is on may I love my life just as it is.
May I appreciate my life just as it is.
May I appreciate my life just as it is. When there are aspects that are not satisfactory, that cause pain, whether it's not in a relationship or unfulfilled career-wise, not all of these apply to me, but a few of them do, or loneliness. So I stumbled with that.
Sure. And that's actually, the reason I corrected you is because that's the reason I use the word appreciate instead of love. Sometimes our life is not lovable. We're in the middle of a breakup, we've lost a job we love, or we're sick, or somebody we love is sick. Sometimes it's not lovable, but we can appreciate. There's always something that we can find to appreciate. It's like sometimes the only part of our body that doesn't hurt is our hair or our fingernails or something. But we can always, that's sort of extreme, but we can always find something, even if it's just being alive. Now, there are times when life is so painful that we really don't want to be alive. I've been through times like that when I was younger. Never acted on them, but certainly felt that. Pain is sometimes so big that we don't even want to continue. But most of the time, we can find something enough to appreciate to at least stay alive. And that aliveness brings the potential for healing and for things to get better. I was talking with a teenager last night who was saying, sometimes, I just feel so anxious and I don't know what to do, and I don't know what's wrong with me, and I think it's pathological. And then something else happens and the feeling passes, and I realize, oh, that was just an anxious phase. That was the word that they used, and I loved that. look, when you're asking the questions that you're asking, I know it's not just a passing feeling, and you're big enough, you're old enough to know that feelings pass and come and go. Um, but, I think that when we aren't loving our life and it isn't lovable, that actually needs some love and tenderness. Can we forgive our life for being difficult right now? Can we forgive ourselves for not enjoying it right now? Maybe there are, dying people who would give anything to be you, but that doesn't help when you're unhappy. When you're in the throes of some kind of misery or unhappiness, that needs some love. And usually we don't offer it. We usually, I don't know, we kind of wallow. You know what I mean? We kind of get into it. And then we make it a story about our own worthiness or talent or lovability, or I know you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I do, and you do kind of sometimes believe that it's never going to go away, and it does. It passes. The nuance of appreciating the things you can, or things about your life that are good, is an important one. It was the totality that was tripping me up.
Yeah, well, the totality is hard, and
Yeah.
yeah, I agree. So thank you for bringing that
Thank
forward.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I omitted to mention that another volunteer, Jim, is recording these sessions. So if you don't want your face on the recording, you can just keep your video off and use the audio to ask your question. So I just wanted to give you that option. Next person who has their hand
Donna,
raised.
can I say something too, which is that for me, it's so much more pleasurable if I can see your face. And your face is not going to be posted on the website. Isn't that correct, Donna?
Right now, what we have, I think Jim could answer that question, but you're being spotlighted, but whoever asks the question ends up being on the recording, unless they turn the audio off when they're asking the question. So
You can't, because then we can't hear them.
I mean, sorry, not the audio, but the video. They can turn the video off and ask
Okay. Okay. So that's fine. If you're, yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Ronnie, you're next.
In the meditation, when the first part, when you think of the people that are going to be happy, are happy for you when something good happens to you, there are some people that, to be honest with you, I'm not really sure if they're going to be happy for me or not.
Well, don't put them in your circle then.
Okay, so I just wondered, like, they might be, but I mean, there are some that I'm just not sure of. I would like to think that they are.
Then put them in your circle and imagine that they are.
Okay.
If you want to think they are, put them in. But look, not everybody wishes us well, and that's not any reflection on us usually. It's usually a state of their own heart, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you wish they would, this is...
Yeah. I mean, there are people that are close to me. And then when I asked myself that question, I'm like, I think they would be happy for me, but some of them, it's like I haven't put them to the test. I haven't really been there with them as far as something really great happening and sharing it and getting their response.
Well, one thing to keep in mind for everybody is it doesn't have to be something really great happening.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be like, wow, I'm pregnant, I'm going to have a baby. It doesn't have to be something.
It won't be that, believe me.
I thought of that because it's like a very happy thing, but maybe today it would be a little more complex. But you know what I'm saying. It doesn't have to be a huge life milestone. It can just be like, hey, today, it's like what Kristen said. Today was a good day.
Yeah.
That's enough.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? You know, if you want to, you can just type in your question in the chat thread, or you can also, you don't have to have a question. You can just want to share something with us from your day or your life or your practice. I'm curious to know, I taught the metta a little bit, the loving kindness meditation a little bit differently this evening, and I'm curious to know what that was like, if you liked it or didn't, or yeah, let me know. So Donna, Neil is in my speaker view. I don't know if he wants to speak, but he's not, he's muted. I think you're unmuted, Neil.
Oh, thanks. I wanted to, the last loving kindness meditation I was in, I had this experience, and maybe the last two, where I was I had the intention was made to think about someone that you know, I wanted to offer loving kindness to or whatever, and the most difficult relationship I had, or the most difficult experience I had with someone, arose just intensely.
Yes.
And it was very difficult to kind of stay with that. And I don't know, it's a pattern, and I just you know, I just wanted some feedback about, I mean, I know I can hop into my breath, or I could drop into my body, but there's such an aversion that occurs, is what I've noticed.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you're practicing metta and this person comes up in your consciousness, is it always like this, or is this a more recent difficulty that you've had with this person that makes it alive for you, you know, so that when you start to want to love, instead you feel hurt and anger or whatever comes up?
It's not necessarily one person. It's like the most difficult thing going on at the time, and it's been.
Oh, okay, that's different. Thank you. So in that case, this is hard, because that means that the most difficult thing is popping up because it's saying, Neil, I need some love. I need some attention from you that's loving. I don't want you to jump away to your breath or drop into your body and make me go away. I want you to be with me and understand me. I want you to hold me in your arms. And even if you can't hug me, just to hold me and be with me. You don't need to change me. You don't need to fix me. I want you to just be with me, even if it burns. What does that sound like to you?
Painful.
Well, can you sprinkle some love on top of it?
I will try.
You know, just sprinkle some love, or bring a little. Okay, so I'll tell you a secret. Like, well, it's not really a secret, but something that I do when something like that happens is I have this go-to image that I love. And I just evoke that image and feel the feeling of it. In my case, I don't have any pets because I have, until now, traveled too much for teaching. And I've been trying to get Jack to get a pet, but of course we don't know how long we'll be home. And so I don't have a pet, but I would like to have one. So I ran into, on a walk when I was in LA still, I know you can hear the nostalgia in my voice. And there was this tiny little kitten. It must have escaped from somewhere because it was too little to be out on its own. And it was nighttime. And when it saw me, it kind of started climbing up my leg with its little claws. And so I picked it up and I held it, and I could feel its little heart pounding. And then it calmed down and started to purr. Anyway, I was in heaven holding that kitten. Now, I bring that back, that feeling, you know, just that pleasure of holding something that made me happy. So you can do that. You're in metta, it's a playful practice. You're allowed to do things like that, to help yourself be with the aversion. With, you don't have to love it, but just to try not to hate it as much, whatever the painful thing is. Because it's almost like that's what's trying to distract you from the practice. Do you know what I mean? Like it's a hindrance, like restlessness or sleepiness, or for you, it's this.
I assumed that I was supposed to just stay with it, and then when I can't, I feel like, okay, you know, it's a fight. It's like an internal fight.
Right. No, you don't have to stay with it in the loving kindness practice. I would recommend you do more loving kindness practice. In the mindfulness practice, yes, you stay with it. And then you just burn, you just stay with it and you learn, because you're developing the capacity to stay present even with the things that are super painful. But with the loving kindness practice, you want to be gentle, a little more gentle. And I want to just say to everybody, with the mindfulness practice, if what's coming up is trauma, like real trauma from the past, if that's what's coming up, then you have every right, in fact, you must back away and be, then you just touched it and you back away and you open your eyes and you orient to where you are. This is now, this is not then. I'm safe now. Do you see? So I just want to say that. But if it's not trauma, if it's just, I don't know, garden variety painful stuff that we go through in life, try to just play with it a little bit and think of something you enjoy. I don't know, walking on the beach, something, and let your mind sort of immerse in that pleasure, the pleasurable feeling. Anyway, experiment and play. I try to just give you permission to explore and play and see what happens.
Okay, thank you.
Because we think we're supposed to do it a certain way, and we receive instructions and guidance that reinforces that feeling, right? And yet you've got to make the practice your own, and that means experimenting. And that might not be the classical way, but if it's working for you in the sense of softening and opening your heart a little more, it's good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So we have Hillary, Kristen, Alex, and then Athena. So
okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. Hi, Hillary.
Hi, Hillary.
Hi, Trudy. I love that meditation.
Oh, good.
That idea of making a circle of people that would be happy for me if something had happened to me.
Alex, mute yourself for now. Oh, no, it's not Alex. It's somebody else. Anyway, go ahead, Hillary.
Yeah. That's the first time I've ever done that. And I realized I have quite a lot more people than I would have thought if I,
Isn't that great to discover that?
I know, and I love the idea of looking them in the eye. I like that a lot, and it's very helpful. I loved what you said about the kitten. Right before this happened, about a month before all this, I got adopted 2 little kittens that are sisters, and I live alone. And like they have been these little spiritual creatures, their heartbeat and a little kitten breath. Love fest. It's been really nice. But I wanted to ask you, I just have that low level, like free floating anxiety, like all the time, pretty much. And I'm just wondering, obviously I know the practice of gratitude. And, just in terms of having a sort of instantaneous way to change negative thoughts to a more positive on a cellular level.
I'm laughing at instantaneous. I don't know, drugs, alcohol.
Yeah, right.
But I don't think instantaneous is what this practice is about. I will say that sometimes just 3 deep breaths can change your mind. It doesn't have to be that you sit for half an hour.
Yeah.
But I don't know anybody who doesn't have some low-level anxiety these days. It feels appropriate, actually. So it might be that when that happens, you take your 3 breaths and you just say to yourself, this is what it's like to be a human being in this time. We are feeling this way. So it doesn't become just you, you know, alone and disconnected from everybody else. Just to know you're tapping into a global feeling, and you may be even absorbing, you know, that energy from the surround, because everybody's feeling it at least some of the time. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, lovely to see you again.
Thank you.
So Alex, are you unmuted? Is Alex next, Donna? Where's Donna?
The
Oh, there you are.
person next is Alex. Yes.
Okay. First off, thank you very much for that. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, great. First off, thank you very much for that. That was my first time doing the metta kind of practice, and I really enjoyed it.
Oh, good.
I just kind of had a comment, just as someone who personally isn't very good, or I guess usually comfortable in situations or like expressing gratitude and just kind of being, I guess, emotionally vulnerable with like family members and people I'm close to. It was very helpful to kind of do that in a kind of imagined sense in my mind, I guess,
Yes.
during the practice. And I'm hoping that seeing how great that experience was just during the practice, I'm hoping that translates more into real in-person interactions.
I think it will if you keep doing it. I wouldn't just do it once and then plop down in the midst of my family's Zoom call and expect to be, you know, gushing with the fountain of love. But you know, keep doing it, because yes, it will. It definitely will. I mean, we don't do this so that we can just love ourselves on the cushion or in the chair. You know what I mean? In meditation, we do this so that we'll have more love in our lives. Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So Kristen had a question. She said, I appreciated Jeff and Ronnie's comments. What are your recommendations for trying not to be too cerebral when you are specifically practicing loving kindness? And she really enjoyed that practice.
Okay. I would suggest that along with the phrases, and maybe for you, since I know you, Kristen, that instead of focusing that much on the phrases, take the time at the beginning to evoke the feeling. It might be thinking of Sammy. It might be, you know, there might be something that you just can reliably think of that makes you feel good. And then see if you can stay with that feeling. Whoever you are, please mute yourself. And I'm happy you get to have a dog. I have mudita for your having a dog. That means sympathetic joy. But Kristen, see if you can focus more on the actual felt sense of pleasure, of goodness, of, you know, sprinkle some joy on it. And if the phrases pull you up into your head, then just stay with an image and a feeling.
And Athena, you have your hand raised.
Hi.
Hi.
Oops.
I think you're muted still. Wait, Athena.
Sure. Oh,
look, now I can hear you.
okay.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
Trudy, I just wanted to share my first experience when I first met you 5 or 6 years ago at the retreat in Joshua Tree. And you changed my life forever with your metta practice, specifically the forgiveness practice of our younger self.
Oh,
And
yeah.
since we've done it together a couple of times, but I haven't really found this practice. And for me, it's what's kind of broke me, kind of freed me of a lot of old stuff. And yeah, it would be nice to, I don't know if it's a trademark Trudy thing, you know, the way you do that I have found, but to share it with more people, because it really, really helped me. And I go back to that a lot because now I have access like to her, to that little Athena.
Yes.
But it was a very, very important practice for me to, and I don't want to elaborate, you maybe.
Well, thank you. Tonight we just did like a little thumbnail bit of it, not the actual whole practice, but we can do it. We can do it together. We can do it together when we resume our Thursday nights. I can do it sort of more the full thing. And thank you for letting me know how much that helped you. I'm really happy to see you too, Athena. So thank you. And I also want to apologize because before Athena, I spoke to Kristen, and it was a different Kristen and not the Kristen that I met years and years ago at the Yucca Valley retreat, actually. So whichever Kristen you were, since I couldn't see your face, I made an assumption that it was the other Kristen. And so thank you for being generous and telling me not to worry about that. Thank you very much. And thank you, Kristen, for telling me it was a different Kristen. There are a lot of people who offer metta for the child these days. I started doing it about, I guess, almost 20 years ago as part of doing psychotherapy with people, actually. I found it so powerful. But now I think you can find that practice plenty of other places as well. And then somebody asked, Betsy asked what city I'm in. I'm in San Rafael. Jack rents a house here, and that's my husband, and I'm up here with him because where I live in Los Angeles is a little cottage, which is very sweet, but small. And we could not both be teaching on Zoom in that space together. And since we're sheltering at home when we need to, all be in the same space, I came up here. And that's why I also made the reference to being nostalgic for LA. I do miss being in LA, but I'm also safe and happy here. So thank you. Now, actually, that's it. Our time is up. Well, everybody, you can let Donna know or let InsightLA know if you want these evenings to continue, or you can just, I can put you on gallery view and we can unmute you for a minute. But before we do that, Donna, I'd just like to sit for a moment. So we'll just do our closing sit. At the end of this time of study and practice together, we express our appreciation for being together and for getting to do this, for being able to do this together, by offering whatever we've learned that has been beneficial, helpful, whatever goodness has arisen from our practice, we offer freely to all beings everywhere, without exception. may we and all beings respond to this global crisis with more loving kindness and less hate, with more compassion and intelligence. May we connect and support each other in all of us growing in wisdom and compassion. And I did forget to announce that tomorrow Jack and I are doing a 5-hour teaching retreat with Teacher Bell for people in China and people in the USA. It's being offered for free. And I'm pretty sure you can find the sign up on the InsightLA website. There are already thousands of Chinese people and thousands of American people. It's a webinar, so there's no limit to the number of people who can join. And we wanted to do this as an expression of solidarity and support to our Chinese friends, and that America and China can practice together felt like a really healthy and wise thing. So I want to invite all of you to join. Because of the time difference, it will be between 4 in the afternoon and 9 in the evening. And like I said, it's free for everybody. So now, if you can unmute everybody, Donna, and if you want, I'm getting some notes to please continue. And yeah, just hi everybody, and bye, and I'll see you probably in a couple weeks. We'll let you know.
Yeah, bye, everyone. Keep the classes coming.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very supportive.
Yes.
Take care of yourselves, and come sit the retreat if you can. Come sit the Spirit Rock retreat with us. I mean, you're going to be able to do it from home. So the schedule will be modified. We will be ending at 5 every day. So it's not like, 6 in the morning till late at night that you have to sit there on Zoom. There'll be a 2-hour lunch break. It's going to be a schedule that takes into account the fact that we're all going to be sitting in front of our computers.
Trudy, I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Tomorrow night is my daughter's birthday. Can I join late, or do I have to join exactly at 4?
I don't know. I don't see why you would have to join exactly at 4. I think you could jump in, but I don't know that for sure. But what you could do is when you register, it's free. Just register, and then
See what happens.
there must be somebody who you could ask. You know what I mean? I'm not involved with the registration. That's being done through the California Institute of Health from our friend and former board member of InsightLA, Jack Chen.
Okay, I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Register ahead of time so that you can get the link. Otherwise, if you go to the calendar after the event has begun, it's hard to find.
Yeah,
Right.
thank you, Donna. And also, for the retreat next week, you have to go to the Spirit Rock website to register. But you could probably get there through the InsightLA website as well. It's just more chances to be together, everybody.
I put the link to the Spirit Rock retreat on.
Yeah, thank you.
What time does the 5-hour one start? The China
4
one?
p.m.
Oh, that's right, 4 to 9.
Yeah, so
Okay.
sign up ahead, like Donna
Yeah.
said.
Thank you for your practice,
Okay.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Donna, for moderating.
So 2 weeks, hopefully.
Okay, we'll let you know. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Have a good
Good
night.
luck tomorrow.
Bye. Have a good weekend.
Thank you. Take care of yourselves. Stay safe.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Trudy. Good night, everyone.
Night.